Hello, Dr. Khan. This is Jessica Crawford talking to you about my demand and supply paper. First of all, demand and supply are two factors that have influences in everyday business. Without demand, there would be no supply, and without supply, there would be no demand because they're both vice versa. One cannot work without the other. These two factors are crucial components to the decisions that companies make as well as consumers on a day-to-day basis. When it comes to demand, it is the principle that describes a consumer's desire and their willingness to pay a certain price for a good or service that a company offers. As far as the concepts are concerned that have to do with demand, there is direct demand and derived demand. And direct demand is the demand for consumption, while derived demand is the input that is demanded. And companies demand certain inputs that can make them a profit in the long run, as well as on a day-to-day basis. There are different determinants that have an effect on demand, and those are the prices of other goods, certain incomes of consumers, because everybody does not make the same amount of money, so everybody cannot simply afford to all have the same things, as well as the price of the particular product itself. There are two different types of demand as well, and those are firm demand and industry demand. And the firm demand is determined by the economic conditions at the time, as well as competing companies around. And then industry demand is based off the economic conditions in general. That could be the location, like I said, the income, that's an economic condition, as well as, people's financial situations. Everybody, like I said before, everybody doesn't make the same amount of money, so it's hard for everybody to have the same type of things. As far as companies using tools to find out what items that they sell are demanded and have a high demand in certain areas, they use tools such as research, surveys, things like that. But one of the common tools that's used is just a simple demand chart. The demand chart actually has the curve on it, which is the demand curve, and it will shift from left to right depending on the amount of demand that a product has. When there's a change in quantity demanded of a product, it falls, then the price of the product rises. And when the change in quantity demanded of the product rises, then the price falls. The definition of supply, when it comes to supply, it refers to the amount of a product that companies are willing to sell at a given price when other factors are being constant at the time. There are also concepts of supply, and those can be price as well, especially income and time. And technology is also a concept of supply that has to do with the things that are being supplied. As well as the demand curve, the supply curve is also plotted on the chart, and that shows the relationship between the price and quantity of a product while other things are held constant. If there's a rise in the price, then the quantity supplied will increase, as well as if there's a fall in the price, then the quantity supplied will decrease. If there are certain movements along the supply curve, that shows the relationship between the curve and the function. If there's a rise in price of a product, it causes an upward movement along the curve. And if there's a decrease of price in a product, then there's a downward movement in the curve. As far as the law of demand, that just states that while the quantity demanded of a particular good or service increases, the price falls, and it's vice versa. As far as the law of supply, if there's an increase in price, it results in an increase of the quantity supplied. And if it's a decrease, it causes a decrease in the amount of quantity supplied. I'm sorry. And basically, my findings was that if that supply and demand are exact opposites of each other when it comes to their purposes in the economy, but they both cannot work without the other. It's just like peanut butter and jelly, or salt and pepper, or ketchup and mustard. You just can't have one without the other. I also found that there was a difference in demand and supply when it comes to the shifts and movements along the curve as well. And like I stated above, demand is the principle that describes a consumer's desire to pay and willingness to pay for a certain product. And Supply refers to the amount of products that companies are willing to sell at a set price, with all the factors being constant at the time. The change in quantity supplied refers to a change in quantity that is offered for sale as a result of a price change in the product. And that's basically what I found on supply and demand. Thank you.